Many of you know that I happen to love music as a first prioritized art form favorite in my life, but even more so than that, and I'm sure many of you would also regard this, it's the music with such a complex depth that I highly favor. Viral is going to offer that. Now, of course, going in on promising regard, this is another Amaranth song. I'm having a lot of fun with them, well, as of late, but certainly tonight. I've really enjoyed them. It's a Swedish, very prominent Swedish metal and electronic rock group. That's kind of how I format them. They have very creative personality, as many of the Swedish artists do, especially in the electronic regard. It's a common element that I found in a good share of groups I've spotlighted this presently on this channel. It's a really good selection of talents for me, and I'd recommend any of those names, including Amaranth. Maybe some of you, again, they've gotten some pretty good circulation over the years, but I'm sure some of you might be approaching on a first name regard, or you've heard the name before, but you've never entertained their work. Of course, I know many of you have. They've been a recommended name to me on this channel for some time, and there were certainly steps taken to pave the way for them to eventually step on, given that I covered some of the associated works on part of other members, let's say, for example, Niels Johan Malin, who I love hearing his vocal talents, and if you haven't heard him before, you're in for a ride, I am sure. We previously looked at Ad Infinitum's collaborative work on part of their Chapter 2 track Afterlife, and he was so promising there. And Morten Lo Sorensen, the percussionist of Amaranth, we've also seen him in other regards to The Dark Side of the Moon, the supergroup on part of different members between Ad Infinitum, Amaranth, and Feuerschwangs. And I covered the other two groups, or I'm still in the process of working through one of them, that I'm like, it makes sense to go into Amaranth. Let's humor them, in a greater depth and a greater share than I originally planned. I'd said it previously on selection of which tracks to consider. My count was narrow at 2 or at 4, and I'm like, it's just not enough. I try to be democratic to all the groups I can hold on this channel, in part to allow myself more time to introduce myself to newer talents and to get through your list of recommendations much faster. But I'm like, I cover European groups in such a grander share, and I love being able to share in any way, if I can, a personal enjoyment on part of new listeners, prospective listeners, as I view it. I want these videos to have a collaborative reach to them, in that, yes, we're maybe not sharing in the enjoyment face-to-face, well, in a way, but not in the same vicinity. I'm paving a path for you, if I can, to introduce you to new talents that I've certainly had so much fun exploring, and I hope you do as well. Let this video be a fun experience I'm sure we're going to have together. And again, the traits to Viral, I think, offer a lot in strength. I've heard this is apparently a very heavy piece, and of course many of you know I gravitate immediately towards the thrash, harsh metal side. Anything of a headbang type energy, I'm game, even though I keep a broad door open intentionally, and I'm open to softer songs. As I understand, Viral is very on the nose in name. The album was released on part of 2020, so we all perhaps know what that's referencing. I've also seen some regards to the digital mainstay in our lives today, so maybe a bit of a social commentary construction. I'm really keen to hear this, right? And with Amaranth, I'm just having a fun time. Let's perhaps introduce you, or you're going to get the perspective again, as I've said, there's a duality perhaps, or maybe even more angles than that, to how an audience member might approach this video, and that if you're a knowledgeable listener of theirs and you've entertained Viral before, you're hearing the perspective of a new listener for the first time, and you're maybe reminiscing on your first enjoyment with the piece, or perhaps you're someone who's taking that step with me. And I hope you have fun with Amaranth. I think you will. I'm going to go ahead and cover, that's what we're doing now. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Viral with the music video that came alongside, as per usual, with the selection of tracks I've picked. And if you're not familiar with the way I format my content here, maybe that's a first introduction to you, I try and provide every accommodation I can to suit listener taste. So if you'd like to read along with the lyrics, those will be provided for you in the video feed. You'll see those commence as soon as the song starts off. And it'll transition along with the song as we proceed our way through it. Kind of retro punk ride, I like it. Oh, the higher pitched tones, it's wonderful. Love that keyboard effect. Yep, here we go. See, like I said, on the nose of the time period. Great rhythm on that. Such creative filming on this. I love it. Oh man, I love that energy.
We are born to abide from inception in a world that is lost on wonder. Look around, then you see it's the doubt that we face extermination.
I love when he goes higher pitch. As I said, first introduction to Nils. How's it sound for you? Probably promising. Man, that chorus rhythm is just so invigorating for me. It's nice to hear an overlap as well with Enrique. That's fresh to this channel so far. Usually he's more so on the background effect of the Nils and Elise companionship on the vocals. Nice reduction. This is adding such a beautiful pop flair. This song is a lot on lyrics. Again, like I said, I admire complexity. It's funny to think back all these years, right? It's sort of a history lesson. I can't tell you enough when I watch this. And I have to say, speaking generally of 2020 and music productions and ideas that came out of that era, there was some real creativity, even if the world was in a very interesting place, generally speaking. I think we can all attest to that, to different specifics. There were certain music artists that found very adventurous ways of performing. I remember, for example, there were a couple bands that I follow at the time more religiously than I did Amaranth, though I've been very happy to get an introduction for their work and perhaps take a rewind journey. I think back, some of the groups did like live online shows, right? Sort of in the vein of a concert. Others, took a bit of an unorthodox path to their music videos. And even I've discovered other groups late in that respect. Let's say, for example, and this is why I say I get a vibe of this when I watch the Amaranth's construction, Volturian. They're an Italian modern metal group. If you're not familiar, I highly recommend them. They're incredible to listen to. Beautiful talent. Their video for... which song was it? It would have been one off of Crimson. I don't know. The entire album was good. So forgive me if I'm trying to remember. Broken. Track number 4. I don't remember what the order was in terms of the release of the videos, but they even filmed that one. It's acknowledged in the video that we filmed this during 2020, during the COVID stuff. So they had a very interesting structuring. Each member was kind of isolated, as I understood, in the way it was filmed, but it came together quite nicely. And it was just as tight and exquisite of a package. It was more like a performance. Well, this kind of was too. This had more of a story-esque feel. But it reminded me in some ways of that with the staging. Though again, that one wasn't as narrative heavy with Volturian, but with Amaranth, they really fought into this. Music, as I said before, it's a wonderful agent of catharsis, not just perhaps for an audience member like myself, but for the band. I think of other songs as well that have spoken to the same regard. Maybe they came out maybe years reflecting off of COVID. Hailstorm, for example, The Steeple. Kind of had that type of energy to it. You never entertained that song. It's exquisite. It's one of my favorites from them. Beautiful idea. Just pairing or associating the concert experience to performing a crowd of people that enjoy your work to a church experience. And I say that as a Christian. I've made no secret about my faith in the way I approach any of my content offerings. It's an analogy that I thought worked and was delivered quite exquisitely. And though this is not necessarily the same, I kind of, again, sense that vibe, right? You've got a band here that's like, we just want to go back and perform. We miss that type of experience, but we're, understanding. No, we're... Well, I don't want to speak for anybody. We're accommodating the changes of the surrounding world, despite how much we might be like, I wouldn't return back to the way things were. Don't we all? So this type of creative rage turned into something I think pretty exquisite. It's a fun video to watch. I mean, again, you can connect with it easily because we all went through it, right? We all know what happened over the last couple of years, but reminiscing makes for a fun experience, especially with a song that has a wider net than that in lyrical structure. As I said, I love songs with a commentary drive, especially when they're delivered sufficiently and are beautiful in execution. Viral is that. Now in the light of a screen you hide, hold like a pawn in a long, long line, like we live in a world of deception on earth, it is going under. I gotta tell you too, the music on the pop side, punk energy, totally fit. I love the electronic emphasis here, though it is much rougher on basis. The foundation is so strong. I really like it. It's a great piece. As I said, the pairing of ideas, right? It's not just necessarily a piece of reminiscing on old memories of history, but, on the mainstay of the screen life, right? Maybe at the expense of reality. Even amid, again, I think it's a great pairing of associated ideas as well. And it's one that I think maybe, especially on first, sometimes it's hard to do this when you're considering a track originally, on first inclination. Some works mandate a requirement of deeper analysis and time to process. So maybe it'll mean even more in terms of subsequent examinations. But I can just say right now, at least the way the lyrics are constructed with both ideas on part of the screen emphasis and the way the world certainly made that amazing. And I say that as somebody who's not going to be in any way a hypocrite. We all know our screen addictions. The digital life is a mainstay these days. As much as sometimes we might regret it. We might go to bed and our head hits the pillow and we're like, how much time do we spend on our phones? I totally get it. But, hey, in part, as I said, these are good associations of ideas. We all went through the 2020 era, and that became, I think, even much more of a mainstay, especially amid the isolation, with a desire, perhaps, to return back to the way things were, which I think is beautifully embodied, as I said, with this video as a creative rage. But it's just so much fun. Again, I do like music of a lot, especially in the metal territory, a bit of a rebellious alternative vibe, and this presents that. In every way, it is exquisite. Not just on lyrics and on vision, with such a creative video, but the beautifully structured, as I said, with the feeling, again, trying to tap into the audience, especially with that aspect of isolation. That shot of Enrique and Elise, that just hit it perfectly. It's like, that's a beautiful embodiment of what you're trying to convey, just right there. Or Elise meditating on the concert experience. Just perfectly on the ball. This is a very tight package on delivery. I thought it was just beautiful. And in the music side, again, as I said, the punk rock vibe, blended with such beautiful electronic tones. Higher pitch ones here too, but that rough metal basis, I love it. Mixed with great vocalings, or vocal styles on behalf of as well, the isolated vocals with Niels, like, as I said, I just can't get enough of him, and the higher inflections especially, and the mixing here of Enrique and Elise. That's not something I've heard. I wondered if they'd ever do that. Because usually it's Elise and Nils on the clean vocal side, and then Enrique takes more of a background screen presence, right? And he's so talented in that. Again, if you're not familiar with Amaranth, Enrique is no longer currently part of the group. I did Rewind of Exodus, so I understand they're now, they have an unclean vocalist that they've picked for their new album in development. I can't wait. I'm sitting here ready for whenever it drops. But Enrique was a pleasure to entertain. He left for understandable reasons. I get it. it's kind of sad that I was like, I just got into Amaranth at a deeper level, and man, I'm loving Enrique's vocal presence here. Hey, there's plenty of material I'm sure to rewind as well on past albums, but this was so strong. As a piece, it's just wonderful replay. And I think it is one that requires a deeper processing, but, you know, I love featuring good music on this channel, especially for those of you this is going to be a first listen for. And it might invigorate an interest to look deeper of Amaranth. I hope you do, at least from the songs I've consulted to this point. Maybe some of their other works I haven't entertained yet. I'm just really enamored by the craftsmanship. And I feel that in every aspect to viral. I'd love to hear if there's cohesion of opinion on this down below. And whatever angle you come from, fresh listener, long-time listener, I'd love to hear about it down below and how you approach your judgment of viral, or your praise of it, maybe is a better word. In every side of this video, on vision, concept, delivery, musical and vocal execution, it's so wonderful of a piece. It's strong, creatively, and on delivery. Highly sufficient, invigorating repeat listen that I will easily re-entertain, I'm sure, a number of times. And spend much more time with, maybe in consideration too, to better understand its entirety of heart. More than, you know, an initial impression can warrant justly. I think it's a piece that deserves a greater time to dive into. Especially since its first entrance just offers so much. Not just on promise of Amaranth and exposure to their talents, right? A familiarity with me. But even as an individual piece, I'm very impressed on the individuality of it. They really delivered a hard hitter with that one. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.